The Galactic Council had made their position abundantly clear. Humans were not to interact with pre-contact species. Hazel ignored them. She'd been a xenobiologist for 12 years, and in all that time, she'd never encountered a species quite like the Krell. They were apex predators, 8 feet of rippling muscle, razor-sharp claws, and bioluminescent stripes that pulsed with their emotions. Their homeworld, Krell Prime, was a death trap of megafauna and toxic flora. The Krell had clawed their way to the top of the food chain through sheer ferocity, and they were stuck in their Bronze Age. "You're going to get court-martialed," Ben said over the comm, his voice crackling through her earpiece. Her research partner sat safely aboard their orbiting vessel, monitoring her vitals. The Council specifically said, "The Council can file their complaints in triplicate," Hazel interrupted, crouching behind a cluster of violet ferns. Below her vantage point, 3 Krell cubs wrestled near the riverbank. Their parents nowhere in sight. "I'm just observing. You have a survival kit in your hands." Observing actively. The cubs were fascinating. Unlike adult Krell, who moved with calculated precision, the younglings were clumsy, playful. One of them, the smallest, with amber stripes, had gotten its hind leg tangled in a mass of river vines. It thrashed and snarled, while its siblings circled, making sounds that almost resembled laughter. Hazel's fingers twitched. The cub would free itself eventually, but it was clearly distressed, and she had cordage in her kit. "Hazel, don't." She was already moving. The cubs froze as she approached, their stripes flashing crimson, the color of alarm. The tangled one hissed, baring needle-like teeth. Hazel kept her movements slow, deliberate. She knelt 3 meters away and pulled out a length of paracord from her kit. Then, she began to tie. Not toward the cub. Not toward anything. She simply took 2 ends of the cord and formed a basic square knot in the air before her, pulling it tight with exaggerated slowness. The cub's stripes shifted from red to orange, curiosity replacing fear. Hazel untied the knot and did it again. And again. The amber-striped cub stopped struggling. All 3 younglings watched, their luminescent patterns pulsing in unison. She could almost see the gears turning in their predatory minds. After the 5th demonstration, Hazel set the cord on the ground and backed away. The cubs waited until she'd retreated to the ferns. Then, the amber one limped forward, dragging its tangled leg. It sniffed the cord. Then, with surprising dexterity, picked it up with its foreclaw. Its first attempt at mimicking her movements was clumsy, but the second was nearly perfect. Within minutes, the cub had untangled itself using a simple hitch knot. "Holy shit," Ben whispered through the comm. "Did that just—" "Yeah," Hazel breathed. "It did." The Council's reprimand took 3 weeks to arrive. By then, it was far too late. Hazel had returned to the river 6 more times, each visit documenting the cub's progress. They didn't just remember the knot they'd innovated. She'd watched them tie vines together to create fishing nets. They'd bound captured prey to transport it. One enterprising cub had even fashioned a crude sling, but it was the 7th visit that changed everything. She arrived to find not 3 cubs, but 12, and 4 adults. Her hand moved to her sidearm. First contact protocols screamed through her mind. She was compromised, exposed, potentially starting an interstellar incident. But the adult Krell didn't attack. Their stripes glowed a deep blue she'd never seen before. Reverence. The amber-striped cub, larger now, nearly adolescent, approached her holding something. A length of woven fiber, complex and intricate, formed into a bracelet-like circle. It placed the gift at her feet, then sat back on its haunches, waiting. Hazel looked at the bracelet, at the dozen Krell, watching her with those intelligent, predatory eyes, and understood. She hadn't just taught them a survival skill. She'd given them the concept of binding, of taking separate things and making them stronger together. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the bracelet and slipped it over her wrist. Ben found her 3 hours later, still sitting among the Krell, teaching them bowline knots. "The Council is losing their minds," he said, though his voice held more awe than accusation. There are 17 ambassadors demanding your head, and about 50 xenoanthropologists demanding you get a medal. What do you think I should get? Hazel asked, helping a cub master a timber hitch. Ben watched a pair of adolescent Krell collaborate to bind together a shelter frame, working with a coordination that would have been impossible weeks ago. I think, he said slowly, you just accidentally uplifted an entire species. Not uplifted, Hazel corrected. They were always capable. I just showed them a different way to use what they already had, their claws, their minds. 6 months later, the Krell made official first contact with the Galactic Council. They arrived not as supplicants, but as equals, their delegation wearing intricately woven garments, their spacecraft held together with revolutionary bonding techniques that had engineers across the galaxy scrambling to understand. They asked for only one human to be present at the negotiations. Hazel stood before the council, wearing the amber-striped Krell's bracelet, as the Krell ambassador spoke through a translator. We were hunters, the ambassador said. Strong, but alone. The human Hazel taught us that strength is not only in tooth and claw, but in what we can build together. She taught us to bind. The council chair, a vaporous being from Proxima B, flickered with irritation. She violated our most sacred protocols. She gave us civilization, the ambassador countered. Your protocols would have left us savage for another 1,000 years. We choose to bind ourselves to humanity, to learn from them, to grow with them. Ben leaned over to Hazel. You realize what you've done, right? Humans are now officially the species that teaches apex predators to tie knots. Hazel smiled, watching the council descend into heated debate. Please, Ben groaned. Don't give the next batch of cubs any ideas. But it was too late. Across Krell Prime, in every settlement and hunting ground, cubs watched their elders weave and bind and build, and they remembered the strange, soft creature who'd knelt before them without fear and shown them that the greatest strength wasn't in tearing things apart. It was in bringing them together. The humans had done it again, not through conquest or superiority, but through a simple act of kindness and a piece of cord. Humanity, fuck yeah.